a couple articles that have been written on the topic, but recently the main difference is the presence of white mana and things like City of Brass and Gemstone Mine in the mana base.
Okay. And the white mana for
silence and other sideboard options are slightly different. Things like Xantid Swarm in the sideboard.
So how do you think this goes for Harry, being that he has very little way to really interact? He has Force of Will. He has a couple of discard spells.
Shardless Bug does not have a great game one against Storm. It's certainly not unwinnable, but it's a little bit difficult.
So we're underway, and we'll see how this all plays out. So Harry Corvese with the turn 1 Suspended Ancestral Visions. Bryant Cook leads with a Gitaxian Probe, showing us Force of Will, Shardless Agent, Polluted Delta, Misty Rainforest, and Wasteland.
So the Shardless Bug deck, I believe, is slightly better against the Epic Storm. If you're on Twitter, you can correct me at SCG Live, hashtag SCGBALT, because the silence is not as relevant in this matchup because of the less counter spells and more discard spells.
Is Bryant going off right now?
It's possible he's playing a Dark
He's
Ritual
got a Dark
on
Ritual,
turn
so,
1.
Yeah, Gemstone Mine comes down to give him access to black mana. We're going to put a little bit clearer of a die on there. And
Gemstone Mine and Dark Ritual. Bryant's deck he's been playing this deck for a while. He has gotten the best versions of every card. So if you're unclear as to some of the cards, we will help explain them to you. But that's Gemstone Mine and Dark Ritual, Mercadian Masks Dark Ritual. The one that comes in foil.
Right, yeah. So he's not going to go like Ritual Necro here, right? It's not, or not Ritual
now,
into
Harry,
like Vidalcan Shackles.
Harry has no action beyond the Force of Will and the Shardless Agent.
Right.
He's got 3 lands in hand. One of them is a Wasteland, so he'll be able to take out the Gemstone Mine. He's deciding if he wants to counter the Dark Ritual, and I think that he's decided that he needs to stop the engine before it starts. Now, Bryant could continue to try to go off here. I think that he's probably just going to wait a turn if he doesn't have like the double Lotus Petal draw, which he does. So he's going to pass it back to Harry.
I like that play from Bryant. We're going to see that Wasteland that you mentioned from Harry is going to take out the Gemstone Mine.
And that's sort of what Harry has to do. He doesn't have much other action to handle anything, really. No way to interact with Bryant other than that one Force of Will that he's hiding behind. Bryant does not have another land drop. Right, so that Wasteland is incredibly good here. Bryant could have gone off turn 1 had the Force of Will not taken out the Dark Ritual.
Yeah, but he was aware of the Force of Will, so he ran it out there with that
in mind.
With that in mind, right. So Bryant passes the turn with no play, and the Ancestral Visions ticks down to 2. Harry plays a Brainstorm into a Misty Rainforest for the turn and passes back. So Bryant draws his card. He's going to have to do something here.
Now, he has a Chrome Mox. Now, again, I was talking about the main difference between Tess and Ant is that Tess has a different mana base, and that includes Chrome Mox. Chrome Mox is not a part of Ad Nauseam Tendrils. It is a part of Tess.
So Chrome Mox, removing
Mox.
Ponder, so you have to use Imprint to get a color imprinted on it.
Yep, so that's going to be a blue.
Right, he imprints Ponder, so it adds a blue. It is like a Mox Sapphire at this point, and he casts a Brainstorm off of it, so he's in the middle of resolving this Brainstorm. He looks to have decided on 2 cards to put back.
There are way fewer fetch lands in the Epic Storm than there are in Ad Nauseam Tendrils. And so Brainstorm is not as good in Epic Storm. I mean, obviously it's still insane,
good, yeah.
But with fewer fetch lands, it's that much worse.
There you see a Lotus Petal to follow things up. Post Brainstorm, he's going to immediately crack it, and there is a Rite of Flame.
So it looks like we're trying to go off here. We'll try and keep things straight for you. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spells so far. 6.
Lion's Eye Diamond
with 4
there.
4 red mana, I believe.
So double Rite of Flame into Lion's Eye Diamond. And they're counting things up as well. We had Mox Lotus Petal, Ritual, LED, and that was after the Brainstorm, so that's 6. As you can see, they are counting up Storm with the die on the table.
Looks like Harry's going to keep track of this for us.
LED
there's
number 2.
LED, so there's 7 Storm. And there's an Empty the Warrens for 8.
Warrens.
So he's going to make 16 Goblins. That's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, 16 1/1s.
Harry Corvese has one way to defeat all of those goblins. Do you know what it is?
Maelstrom Pulse.
Yep, Maelstrom Pulse is pretty much in his main deck, the only way that Harry has to deal with the 16 goblins currently facing him down. So there's the 16 goblins represented by some dice and some tokens. I have always seen Bryant using those sleeved M10 goblin tokens.
Those are the ones he brings along. He knows he's going to need them.
He chooses, yeah. So Harry's decided he's going to thin his deck a little bit, get the percentage points just that much higher before he draws, to try to get to that Maelstrom Pulse.
He's got to watch it here because he's at 17 now with 16 goblins on the other side. So one more point of damage from something like a fetch land is going to make it only one swing for Bryant to take this game. If he can avoid taking that one more damage, he gets an additional turn after this, theoretically.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a 2-turn clock either way with the 16 goblins. Of course, when he goes to 1, he won't be able to use Force of Will or a fetch land.
Right.
So, Vision's going to go down to 1. That's not going to be able to aid in finding that Maelstrom Pulse, though.
Not until next turn.
He's going to be able to play Tarmogoyf, which means that he is also going to go to 2 on attacks from all these goblins,
right.
Meaning that
the fetch land
and the Force of Wills are still alive,
yeah.
But it's still a difficult situation, although he does have four ways to get it here.
So, as you can see, he passes the turn. Bryant draws a card, attacks him down to 2. Harry now has the Ancestral Visions resolving.
Looks like Shardless Agent, Ancestral Vision, and...
What is the card for the turn?
Looks like a Thoughtseize.
Certainly not going to cast that Thoughtseize at this point. And I don't believe... So he can't... I mean, he can fetch...
I don't think it does him any good, though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter,
He
right?
has a Jace in hand as well. That's obviously not going to be good enough. He's got 2 Shardless Agents. Those are not going to be able to cascade into the Maelstrom Pulse. The best that he could do is hope to draw the Maelstrom Pulse at that point off the Shardless Agent, but he wouldn't have the mana. And seeing that he's going to die to the army of goblins, Harry decides to scoop up the first game.
7.5 minutes in. Bryant Cook up a game here versus Harry Corvese. Bryant with the Epic Storm. Harry with Shardless Bug. Both players at 5-1 here in round 7 of 9 of the StarCityGames.com Legacy Open Series.
I think that Bryant going off turn 1, I don't think that Harry had a choice but to counterspell the first Dark Ritual. He couldn't guarantee that it wasn't going to be an ad nauseum or something completely unbeatable like that would have ended the game on the spot. That at least, the way that he played it, at least gave him until the Ancestral Vision resolved to try to find some outs. Unfortunately for him, they weren't the ones he needed because Bryant had the Empty the Warrens in his hand.
I think, given the situation Harry was in, so you just get, you got a grip of cards, you get Gitaxian probed, and then your opponent appears to be trying to go off. I mean,
you steps on the gas pedal to try to get going.
Right.
I think that it's correct to go after the first one. And it ended up being correct because he also used the Wasteland to get rid of the land. Bryant had to rebuild from there. He did find the Chromox to be able to start the engine again, and was able to very quickly amass a board of goblins. And the thing about Shardless Bug is, if it stumbles, if it gets flooded, or if it gets screwed, it can recover against the mid-range decks, but Combo punishes it because it takes a long while to get going. It's like a diesel engine. It takes 4 turns for the Ancestral Vision to resolve. It takes several turns to get up to the mana you need to play Jace once you use the Wasteland, things like that. So, Bryant Cook able to resolve his Storm spell before the Ancestral Vision goes off, cutting Harry's out to just 1 in the deck.
I also like that play from the Storm player, from Bryant. You draw 7. If one of the cards is Gitaxian Probe, and you have Dark Ritual, I like playing that. Given, in a way, I like it irrelevant or irregardless of the other 5 cards, because you see a counterspell and you say, he has to counter this Dark Ritual.
Right,
So
well-
I could use this Dark Ritual as a duress for his...
Bryant Cook couldn't have been happier with the hand that Harry revealed. He showed 3 lands, a blue card that Harry couldn't cast and wasn't very good against the matchup, and a Force of Will.
Yeah.
So the Force of Will is often awkward and will typically be the first card you name with something like Cabal Therapy.
Right.
But in that situation, he was perfectly fine with Harry 2-for-1ing himself to counter what was basically a Dark Ritual. Like, wasn't necessary for Bryant to win the game. It was just another ritual in his deck. So we're looking quickly at sideboards here. Harry is going to have more options
Sure.
by virtue of the type of deck he's chosen. He's definitely going to bring in the Thoughtseize from the sideboard, and also the 4th Force of Will. I also anticipate a couple of choices that he has, including Liliana of the Veil. Now, Liliana of the Veil is sort of a little bit innocuous when you try to think about what it does against tests, but the discard every turn, the bottomless pit effect, is actually very good against these combo decks because all they want to do is reach the critical mass of cards in hand and go off. And so if you can make them discard a card every turn, then they can never get to that point. Another card that I would seriously be considering here is Nile Spellbomb. The way that Storm usually tries to win is with Past in Flames, or something like Diminishing Returns, or Ill-Gotten Gains out of the sideboard. And so a Nile Spellbomb is a way to cantrip as well as cut off that option. Harry died to Goblin tokens that game. He's not going to bring in his Golgari Charms just for Goblin tokens. He's not going to bring the extra Maelstrom Pulse just for Goblin tokens, although it's possible the Maelstrom Pulse is acceptable to be able to deal with things like Lion's Eye Diamond or Chrome Mox, but I wouldn't anticipate he'd bring those in and instead replace some of his slower effects with some of the stuff that is meant to deal with this matchup.
Right. On the other side, Bryant's deck, he plays 4 copies of Burning Wish main, so essentially half the sideboard is meant to be tutored for, including Grape Shot, Empty the Warrens, Tendrils of Agony, Ill-Gotten Gains, Past in Flames, Diminishing Returns. Of his non-tutor targets, he's got 3 copies of Abrupt Decay, 2 copies of Chain of Vapor, 2 Xanthid Swarms, 2 Cabal Therapy. So I can see him bringing in the therapies to name cards like Force of Will, as you mentioned. I don't know so much about the Xanthid Swarm. This deck doesn't have so many counter spells in it.
The deck has 4 Force of Will. Harry actually has access to 2 Venser Shaper Savant
which can
in
act
his
as a
sideboard,
counterspell.
but again, I don't think that the Xanthid Swarms are particularly necessary. And again, he's Epic Storm. He doesn't want to change too much of what he's already doing.
So if anything, it's just a little bit more discard to help fight those counter spells and just protect his combo, and just want to disrupt his opponent's ways to disrupt his combo. That's really all it comes down to, and I think I think that's really all he wants to bring in Cabal Therapy.
Yeah, the Silence is just better than Xanthid Swarm. Harry's deck is full of things like Abrupt Decay to be able to deal with that. Now, I anticipate a lot of those Abrupt Decays, if not all the Abrupt Decays, are going to come out in this matchup. But Shardless Bug has many ways to deal with an 0-1 for 1, so I would not anticipate the Xanthid Swarms coming in. I think that just the Cabal Therapies from Bryant are going to be what's coming in, whereas Harry's bringing in probably 5 or 6 cards. Looks like we're underway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like Harry mulliganed here.
It does look like that. He
mulliganed to 6. Harry did indeed bring in the Liliana of the Veil and the Nile Spellbomb.
Right,
There's no way to prove that that's the sideboarded Thoughtseize.
Right. So you have Thoughtseize, Nile Spellbomb, Liliana of the Veil, and a Shardless Agent, it looks like, and a Tropical Island. So he leads with a Creeping Tar Pit, passes back to Bryant. Bryant casts that Kitaxian Probe.
Bryant might be able to go off turn 1. I can't put together all the pieces.
But he might be able to.
He definitely will be able to if he chooses to, although he does have 2 lands, and Harry does not have a Force of Will in his hand, although he does have the Thoughtseize to be able to disrupt the action. I think that that's what Bryant's trying to weigh here, is how he proceeds. I think that the way that Bryant can proceed is he wants to have the 2 lands in play before he goes off, and he can use the Silence as a pseudo Time Walk to just play it in Harry's upkeep. So he's going to lead with the City of Brass.
Right.
Sorry.
That's okay. And he is going to pass the turn and immediately silence
Yep. So Harry's going to be quiet for the turn. He's not going to be able to Thoughtseize Bryant. He is, however, going to draw, and if this is a wasteland, that's going to be very awkward for Bryant Cook, but it's not.
You see the tropical island joins the creeping tar pit this turn, and of course Harry can't cast any spells, so he passes back. Now Bryant, on his second turn, has the gemstone mine, immediately taps it for a blue, casts a brainstorm, brainstorm resolving. Bryant already chosen one card to put back, chooses another. I believe it was a preordained, oh no, it was a ponder. Now he changed his mind.
Yep, he's got another silence in there, it looks like. If he wants to try to make another land drop. I don't see another land in there, though. Cabal Therapy is in there, however. And he's going to be able to snag Harry's Thoughtseize with that. He's not want for business, does Bryant. He has Ponder and several Storm spells, so he can either... I don't anticipate him going off this turn because he led with the Brainstorm. He's trying to set up for a slightly longer game. Could be wrong, though.
Yeah. There's a Lotus Petal as the follow-up to Brainstorm. He's tapping the City of Brass for mana. Here goes to 16. He's going to cast
Looks like
Dark
I'm
Ritual.
wrong.
Yeah,
As per usual.
This is one of the reasons I love watching Storm, because it just, hey, the game's barely underway and he's going off. So Cabal Therapy is the next play from Bryant Cook.
He's going to name Force Will almost certainly.
Yeah, almost certainly. He sees
Underground
the coast
is clear.
LED is the next play. Ponder is the next play.
So Storm's at 6 now.
He cracks the LED, discarding a silence. Ponder is currently resolving. He finds
Ad
Ad
Nauseam.
Nauseam in the top
That's
3.
a good one. So he's got no mana floating and 7 Storm.
Now, he did Brainstorm earlier this turn. That wasn't like, oh, look, I found an Ad Nauseam. It was set up.
He knows it's there. So he's going to take 4, 5,
6, 7.
So that's going to put him to 9 life. He's at 9. And now Tess is a better deck for going off with Ad Nauseam because it has the Chromoxes. So it can actually get more free mana sources. So he's at
10.
8. Or I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I'm counting up. And yeah.
It looks like he's at 7 now. 6. Or no, 7 still. 6. Now the Chromox there is going to give him enough mana and the different types of mana that he's going to be able to use. He's going to go to 4. Now 4 is pretty much the magic number where you usually stop with Tess, because both Past in Flames and Tendrils of Agony, as well as Empty the Warrens, all cost 4. All your win conditions cost 4. The only 5 in the deck you've already cast, and that's Ad Nauseam.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about dying from 5.
So Bryant Cook at 4. As you can see, all those cards there are going into his hand as a result of Ad Nauseam. So he's just leaving it out on the table, just like Harry's hand, because
we
it's
have
all
a Storm
known
of
information.
9. The Chromox is on red mana. The red is going to cast a Rite of Flame.
Yep.
2 red mana. We have the requisite amount of Storm to kill Harry with Tendrils of Agony.
Right. Another Rite of Flame.
Yep, another Rite of Flame is going to...
And a third Rite of Flame, I believe.
4.
A Burning Wish.
And Burning Wish is probably going to get Tendrils of Agony here, unless Bryant wants to try to get up to 7 or 20 Storm to try to Grape Shot him out. I don't think that that's going to happen, though. Oh, he's going to make a bunch of Empty the Warrens tokens. Interesting. Oh, because he has doesn't have enough black mana.
So Empty the Warrens is the play here. And what was the Storm count at this point? It was somewhere around 11?
Yeah. So plenty of Goblin tokens.
27.
And Bryant is going to end his turn with a lot of spells in hand.
Including
One of them
a silence.
is going to be a silence, so he's going to turn off Harry's top-decked Maelstrom Pulse, even
if it's
he
there,
draws
yeah.
it.
So there you go. Upkeep, sacrifice Lotus Petal for a white mana, cast Silence. Brainstorm is the draw, and Harry just kind of looks at the top few
extends
anyway.
his hand, yeah.
And
So those were 2 fairly poor draws against a test deck for Shardless Bug, but It does showcase the power of Shardless Bug showcase the power of Tess against Shardless Bug. When the blue-green-black mid-range decks that have lots of 2-for-1s like Hymn to Torok are popular, and the only counterspell is Force Will, and the only other meaningful interaction is discard,